Back tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. You've heard what Cardinal Keith O'Brien has had to say this morning, and now Kaye is looking for your calls on the subject.
Yes, indeed we are, Gary. Sadly, I managed to miss Cardinal Keith O'Brien, would you believe it? Which is marvellous. I was trying to get prepared for this programme. So what was the nub of what he said?
Well, I think pretty much as you had described his earlier comments as well, that it's the word marriage, the use of the word marriage, that he takes great exception to, that he believes that gays and lesbians have enough, have been given enough, as it were, up until now with the idea of civil partnerships, although he believes that that in itself undermines the institution of marriage. But he's drawing a line in the sand and saying absolutely no to the use of the word marriage.
Yeah, because I have heard him in other interviews say, well, if you put the line here, if you say it's marriage, then if you redefine it to that extent, then it could be two men and two women, or any kind of permutation that you like.
He did make that point. He talked about three people in a marriage if things carry on this particular path.
Well, it will be interesting to see where he stands in terms of public opinion this morning, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Call Kaye on BBC Radio Scotland.
Scotland's most senior Catholic has once again launched a fierce attack on gay marriage. Is Cardinal Keith O'Brien out of step with public opinion? Let me know what you think. 0500 92 95 00.
0500 92 95 00. Call Kaye now.
So, Cardinal Keith O'Brien, Scotland's and indeed Britain's most senior Catholic, has spoken out against gay marriage again, this time in advance of David Cameron's plans to formally give his government support. The SNP government has already done so. A consultation process is currently underway. Cardinal O'Brien accuses them of redefining marriage at the behest of a small minority. Marriage between same-sex couples, he says, is a grotesque subversion of a universally accepted human right. Now, he has come in for a great deal of criticism over the weekend from politicians of all persuasions. Conservative Margaret James has condemned his apocalyptic language and says it's a completely unacceptable way for a prelate to talk. What do you think? Is the Cardinal in or out of step with public opinion? 0500 92 95 00 is the number to call. You can text 80295. Let's say good morning to John Deegan, who is the Scottish Parliamentary Officer for the Catholic Church. Morning, John.
Morning, Kaye.
Good morning. The politicians clearly think that they have the sway of public opinion here, and the majority of people are comfortable with the idea of gay marriage, both the UK government and the SNP supporting it. Does Keith O'Brien disagree with that, or does he not care? What?
Well, I think he would always want to uphold the natural order, the fact that from a natural complementarity of male and female, every society, every civilization throughout history has always recognised there's something special about that relationship. And where the state has a particular role to play is in regulating that, because that's where children come into the world, and it's vitally important that we raise the next generation well, that we raise them in an environment that's most conducive to them flourishing, and that is with their biological mother and father. That is marriage.
No, clearly Cardinal Keith O'Brien is entitled to his view, and he's espousing the view of the Catholic Church, but does he care that the majority of people in this country might not agree with him?
Well,
and I say might because obviously
yeah.
I do not know.
Yeah.
I mean, our politicians, I would imagine, have decided that because, both, as I say, the UK government and the Scottish government have kind of given it their seal of approval, although consultation processes are underway. So does he not care?
Yeah, well, they're coming from different perspectives. I mean, the politicians, I'm afraid, are a bit populist. They want to be popular, but they're perhaps popular with the wrong people, the particular elites who've been pushing this for the last decade or more, in fact. Whereas the Cardinal has a duty to uphold the truth, uphold what helps respect the dignity of the human person, the dignity of the fundamental relationship in society, and that's the family built on marriage. So even if he's unpopular, he's willing to say it because it's true.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, if he is, and not a lone voice, certainly not. And I mean, I have to say, very quickly, we've got texts coming in who would agree with Cardinal Keith O'Brien, anonymous one, totally against gays using the word marriage for same-sex partnership, marriages for man-woman partnership and protection of any resulting children, which is very much a Cardinal's line. Jen from Ayrshire says, universal human right, just not for homosexuals. So are they not human? I'm neither gay or Christian. However, I fail to comprehend the bigotry and hatred being peddled by mainly the Roman Catholic Church.
I mean, Kate, can you not see the language though? I mean, they say we're intemperate, and you talk about that. We're charged with hatred for. I mean, we're just disagreeing. For the fact we disagree, and people start saying you're a bigot, that you're full of hate. I mean, it's really paradoxical that that's what they do. We're trying to put forward a reasoned position. The whole of history is with us. The whole of sociological research shows the same. That mothers and fathers are the best environment for children, and yet there's this sort of language that college is pegged into you.
John, what do you think of the word grotesque?
Well,
I mean, that's what the Cardinal said, that this is a grotesque subversion of a universally accepted human right. And this texter, Jen from Ayrshire, is responding, so a human right, are homosexuals not human? I don't think she's totally against the grain, is she?
Well, it's a human right that is recognised as a human right between male and female. Article 16 of the Universal Declaration, Article 12 of the European Convention, all recognise that marriage is between a man and a woman. That's the fundamental building block of human society, and that's what the Cardinal's getting at. We are in a time where no one really gets a chance to say anything on this, and it's only if the Cardinal is using forthright language that people actually sit up and take notice, and that's what's needed. We are pushing reason here. We are trying to say, listen,
okay.
About this.
Well, John, let's see what people think. We've got Tom French, who we'll be speaking to just after news as the policy coordinator for the Scottish Equality Network. John Deegan here saying that Cardinal Keith O'Brien is pushing reason and nothing else. What do you think? 0500 92 95 00 is the number to call. Right, is Cardinal Keith O'Brien, Scotland and Britain's most senior Catholic, in or out of step with public opinion when he says that gay marriage is a grotesque subversion of a universally accepted human right? He spoke out again at the weekend in advance of David Cameron's intention for his government to formally back gay marriage. And we got a text in from Jen in Ayrshire saying a universal human right, not just for homosexuals, so are they not human? I'm neither gay nor Christian. However, I fail to comprehend the bigotry and hatred being peddled by mainly the Roman Catholic Church. But been speaking to John Deegan, who's a Scottish parliamentary officer for the Catholic Church, and he says that human right has historically been acknowledged as being between a man and a woman, and that the Cardinal is pushing reason. And John rejects any claim that the Church is guilty of bigotry and hatred. So let me know what you think. 0500 92 95 00. We do have lots and lots of calls on this, I have to say. But let me just bring in Tom French, who's a policy coordinator for the Scottish Equality Network. Morning, Tom.
Hi, Kaye.
Hi. Jen in Ayrshire, they're saying that she feels that this is the Church peddling bigotry and hatred, which of course you heard John reject. He says they're pushing reason. What do you think?
Well, I actually agree with the person who texted in, because I think the Catholic Church have every right to speak out on this, but I think the sort of language we're hearing now, language like grotesque, actually goes beyond just having your say and steps into what I would consider pernicious homophobia. In December, Cardinal Keith O'Brien said that same-sex relationships are demonstrably harmful to the medical, emotional and spiritual well-being of those involved. And he went on to say that no compassionate society should ever enact legislation to facilitate or promote such relationships. We have failed those who struggle with same-sex attraction. Now, I think we've seen opposition from Cardinal Keith O'Brien in the past to the repeal of Section 28. He opposed civil partnership, and it just seems like this has become an obsession for him to be against lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender equality.
John?
Well, I think the obsession is the other way around, Tom. You work full-time to promote this. We've got umpteen organisations pretty much funded by the public purse to promote this. When I go to meetings to discuss this issue, I'll be surrounded by people who are coming from a pro-homosexual group, and it's totally disproportionate to what you represent in society. And even people who have same-sex attraction, they do not all agree with people like Tom French. There are people with same-sex attraction who are against this redefinition of marriage, who do not want to be forced to embrace a gay lifestyle. If you want to look at hatred, I would suggest you go into something like the Pink News and look at the bottom of their articles and look at the sort of comments that go on. They're full of vile and hatred. It's particularly focused on Catholics, but against anyone who disagrees with them. That's the problem. When it came at Clause 28, the whole of society in Scotland pretty much was against Clause 28. And what we predicted at the time...
Was it John?
Yes, very much. Yes, there was a referendum which had something like 78%
Well, John, on this one, the majority of the public, and indeed the majority of Catholics, are actually against your viewpoint. The Scottish Social Attitude Survey showed that 61% of the public were in favour of this, and actually 57% of Catholics. And I was at Scottish Labour Party conference this weekend when good Catholics like Michael McMahon MSP and Willie Bain MP signed our equal marriage pledge because, like the majority of Scots, they believe in equality for same-sex couples.
John, are you saying that this debate has been hijacked in some way by the homosexual lobby?
Yes, there has been a progressive campaign. Yes, the Scottish Government funded the Hearts and Minds campaign. It's in there. They've had a strategy about how they will get the cultural shaping institutions of our society to promote a particular agenda. Stonewall have been particularly impressive. They have created a blueprint about how organisations have to become diversity champions, all the things that they have to promote the values of homosexuality. And that intensity of effort pays off, and because you see people in any...
So you don't see this as promoting equality, John. You see this as promoting homosexuality, and there's a real difference there.
Most
right.
Definitely, yes.
Okay, well, okay, let's rest on that. 0500 92 95 00 is a number to call. We've got Meg in Edinburgh and Kathy in Bellshill. Good morning, Meg.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
Yes, very good, very good. What are your thoughts on this? Are you Catholic, Meg?
I was brought up as a Catholic, and I had a Catholic education in a convent school, which I have to say I enjoyed school from that point of view. But I think what I would like to say, having listened to Cardinal O'Brien's interview, it just really saddened me. I think he came across really poorly. I think any representative of a major institution, whether it's a church or anything else, should actually be better than that. He should almost be statesmanlike. If he's going to be representing a church, then he should be... He just came across as out of touch, slightly ignorant, and it just saddened me that in this day and age, he was mixing up issues. I mean, he was talking about marriage and being ridiculous, bringing in, are we going to go to 3 people in a marriage? I think most people in society obviously recognise marriage or a union as between 2 people, and that's what marriage is. It's a union. Mm-hmm. That's a technical word he's bringing up because he's bringing in the legalities of it, but it is a union, and where he's bringing children into it, I think, he's mixing parenting up with a mother and a father. And I know the statistics say that a mother and father is the best, but heavens, I mean, the number of, mother-father relationships where the children have a terrible lifetime, a life. So, if you've got 2 very good parents, it's parenting, not whether you're a female or a male in a marriage. I just think he let the Catholic Church down because he just didn't come across as an educated and an experienced enough spokesman, to be perfectly honest. But
surely, Maggie, he is just promoting what the Catholic Church believes and holds on to.
Yes, he is, but I think this is where, I'm no longer a Catholic, and this interview this morning just made me think, gosh, I'm so glad I am not. I don't belong to that church anymore because they don't keep up with society as it moves on. He can't keep society in a backward age. This is life and this is reality, and people have to live in this society. You can't have an ideological where, everything's happy in the garden because every child has a mother and a father who's deliriously happy and they're all brought up. That's not life.
Yeah. Well, Meg, we look at what happens in the norm, and usually that is the best circumstance. When we look at health programs, we say usually people who avoid drinking excessively or smoking too much, usually they do best, and that's what we promote. And it's the same with the family, and that's why we're upholding this. And you talk about a union. What is the unique thing about a union between a man and a woman that other unions don't have? It's the fact that they can procreate, and that's why the state has an interest in this. That's why we regulate it. That's why we support it and we promote it. If you're saying that if you've got a union and the state have to approve it, you're asking them into your own private life where they do not have a place.
So, John, would you advocate those couples who choose to get married but don't want to have children or can't have children, would you advocate they shouldn't have marriage?
Well, just come in there and say, biologically, 2 gay women or 2 men, well, actually, there are ways around that anyway, where one partner could have their own child. But how many children are needing parents through adoption, through fostering, through whatever else? And I would be happy to have it all. That's all I'm saying. I think there's a place for everything.
Can I ask you a question? In Derby, there was a couple, the Johns couple, and they wanted to foster children, and they were told they couldn't because they were Christians and they believed that homosexual relationships were wrong. They were told they couldn't. So this shows you where the tolerance.
Well, John, would one of the reasons for that not be that if the child that they adopted turned out to be gay, and these adoptive parents of theirs had already taken a stance to say that they felt it was wrong and a perversion, then that's a rather difficult position to put an adopted child in, is it not?
I don't think so. What if that child ended up being an alcoholic or a drug addict? What if the parents said, listen, actually, we love you, we support you, but we will try and help you and we'll try and guide you in life so that you
What
make
kind of help do gay people need, John? Do you want to cure us? Is that what you want?
Well, I think you've got, Tom, I think that you believing that entering into a homosexual relationship, a sexual relationship with another man, is something that brings.
Well, you compared it to alcoholism and drug addiction.
Yeah, Tom, I'm making a. Hang on, John. Tom, sure, I'm assuming that you're a gay man. Are you or not?
I am.
You
right
are. Yeah. No, I just didn't want to. So, let's take it from that point of view. Tom, you clearly don't feel that you are in need of guidance or curing or anything else. You are living a happy, fulfilled life. Are you?
Yeah, I don't feel that I struggle with same-sex attraction. In fact, I think I do quite well by it. But
so John, I mean, you would surely understand.
Tom, that's why you. I mean, that's up to you. If you want that in your private life, that's fair enough. We can point out the evidence to you. We can tell you what we think brings flourishing, and actually we can show you the sociological evidence. Why must you change that for all of us?
John, the point is that I actually don't need you to tell me what you think. I can live my life, and that's what this is about. It's about choice. It's about choice. John, if you'll let me speak, I think Tom Harris MP, another good Christian, put it well when he said, if you don't like gay marriage, don't get married to a gay person. We're not trying to force this on anyone. Religious bodies like the Catholic Church will not have to do it. So why are you trying to force your views on us and the rest of society?
OK, well, hang on, John, just hold with us and let's bring in some other views. We've got Kathy in Bells Hill. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning.
Good morning. What are your thoughts on this, Kathy?
Well, I'm listening to this bit of banter that was going on in the background, and I'm very, very happy that the female, she is no longer a Catholic, because I would think that she never was one, and she's a very poor one. She's certainly not an example.
Is that our friend Meg from Edinburgh?
Yeah, that's her. Give her my message, please, if she's not listening.
Well, I think she can probably hear you, can't you, Meg?
I can, and actually, I'm sorry again to say, but what I would purport is that I am a Christian person.
No,
and
you're
you
not.
See, that is a kind of bigotry again. I don't measure up to your high Catholic standards, so you're having a pop at me. I'm not having a pop at anybody. I'm a true Christian.
You're not having a pop at anybody because you do not understand the Catholic Church. You've probably been a poor one all your life. Anyway, I didn't come on to speak to you. What I want to point out here, I'm backing Cardinal Keith O'Brien, yes, and what he said, grotesque. I would say he was very kind saying grotesque. I would say evil. Marriage.
You think homosexual practice is evil?
Yes, I do.
Do you think
Absolutely.
homosexuals are evil, Kathy?
Well, there are many people who find themselves through a mistake of birth or whatever, that they find themselves in another body that they really don't want to be in. But that doesn't mean to say that they've got to pull the 10 Commandments apart. Marriage is written on tablets of stone. It's for the procreation of children.
Right.
To be taken care of, looked after and guided. Who would guide their son or daughter into sex with a person of their own gender? That is, to me, the whole total loss.
Surely, though, is this not about love? I mean, my gran was a Christian, and she brought me up teaching me love thy neighbour.
Between a man and a woman. This is all laid down in the marriage vows which I myself took 55 years ago. I loved a man for 55 years. Sadly, I lost him 2 years ago. I still love him, and I'll love him till eternity. But I have no time for gay sex marriage.
Right.
In any capacity. Its morality is dead. That is why the world at large, the country, these people are being backed by the governing bodies Go, get on with it. Yeah, we support you. No, that's all right. They want the votes. They don't give a damn what you do. But
So Kathy,
is,
what do you? I mean, Tom French here is the policy coordinator for the Scottish Equality Network. He's told us he's a gay man and is perfectly happy with his sexuality and the life that he leads. So I mean, how do you feel about somebody like Tom?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, a certain amount of pity that he couldn't find his true place and what he was born for, that he couldn't find his true place and the love of a good woman and a family.
Right, OK. John Deegan, is Kathy talking for you in the Catholic Church and Cardinal Keith O'Brien? Is that, does that fall in with your thoughts?
Kathy knows her faith. She's got strong positions. In our society today, people are very sensitive to the use of language. The Cardinal is trying to use it as sensitively as they can when he talks about supporting people and trying to help people who have same-sex attraction. We try to do that to be as compassionate.
Do you pity gay people, John?
I think they are choosing the wrong path, Kaye. I think they're choosing something that doesn't help them. There's major issues that are covered up, and I'm afraid Tom would charge us with homophobia, even for raising them. Things to do with their life expectancy, their mental health, the suicide rate. All of these issues are swept under the carpet. And I think if you really...
I think you are homophobic, John, yes.
Yeah, exactly, Tom. People who disagree with Tom are being labelled. Homophobia sounds like it's some psychological problem. They try to label us just because we disagree.
No, I think
with
it's the same as racism.
Thomas Hughes, it's against the whole of history, the whole of culture, the whole of reality. And let's look at the evidence. We want to be as supportive as possible of people with same-sex attraction, but this is a public debate about marriage, and that's what you're undermining. Stonewall have proposed a bill recently, and the first thing they do in that bill is remove the terms husband and wife. You are proposing something to justify your lifestyle that affects everyone else. Now, you're free to do what you want. I agree with that. I agree with the freedom of people to do what they want, but don't change society just to suit you. I'm afraid you're going down the wrong path.
OK, John, listen, you're staying with us. I'm going to speak to Des in just a second in Alexandria. 0500 92 95 00 is a number to call. We started off talking about Cardinal Keith O'Brien's comments at the weekend, in which he said that gay marriage would be an attempt to redefine marriage at the behest of a small minority and a grotesque subversion of a universally accepted human right. We're wandering around here, but please do get in touch with your thoughts here. Some people feeling that the Catholic Church is guilty of hatred and bigotry, whereas John Deegan, who's a Scottish parliamentary officer for the Catholic Church, would contend that that is absolutely not the case, that they have the weight of history on their side here, and it is the homosexual lobby who is trying to hijack that issue. But I want to just bring in Stephen McGinty, who's a journalist for The Scotsman, a biographer, and Cardinal Thomas Winning. And good morning, Stephen. Thanks for hanging on, and I know you're short of time. What impact do these comments by Cardinal Keith O'Brien, which are not new, I mean, he has spoken out, he's very consistent in his views, but in terms of, his place and the place of the Catholic Church in Scotland, what impact does it have? Does it harden his support? Does it reject other people? What do you think?
Well, I think the key thing to get back to basics here is to look at the Catholic Church's position, and I think that what we need to do is kind of push away opinions and effectively look at what is the Catholic Church's position. And I think we all know the Catholic Church's position on homosexual acts. And the Catholic Church as an organisation and as an institution, people can say, well, why should it not move with the times? Why should it not sort of evolve or adopt ideas which are current? But if you look at the key to look at the Catholic Church is to look at the Catholic Church through history, and eventually it has caught up in some ways, but in many ways the Catholic Church's attitude is the exact opposite of what people wanted to do, which is to move with the times. The Catholic Church received this phrase from John Paul II, but he said that the Church should stand as a sign of contradiction to contemporary society. Its job is not to nod along, to go with it, to take the easy approach as it could be perceived.
So in terms of the question of, is Cardinal Keith O'Brien in or out of step with the public opinion?
It's immaterial.
He doesn't care, but, that's not his issue.
Yeah, that's like saying, you've got to look at it in terms of kind of politics in many ways. His view, he's representing his party, his church, and his party, his church's specific views. and his job is to articulate them in good weather and bad weather, in favour or out of favour. And Benedict XVI, the current Pope, I mean, his attitude is that he would much rather have a smaller church with people who are absolutely core believers of the basic tenets of the Catholic Church's teachings than have the pews filled. But in order to do that, he would have to sort of bend and move with the times. So I think that's in many ways it's a kind of all the sound and fury we are hearing in today's debate. In some ways, is you could avoid it by taking a step back and saying, look, this is the Catholic Church. This is what it's going to say.
But then the risk is that the Catholic Church in Scottish society gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
So be it. That will be their attitude. I mean, their attitude is that the Catholic Church's position is set, and as a cardinal, his job is to articulate it.
Is that right, John?
Yes, Stephen's absolutely right. But I think what will happen, however, is that the truth always prevails, and what you need, if you're taking Tom's position, you need a propaganda campaign throughout someone's life, but eventually you get back to first principles, and first principles of human nature is that there's a complementarity between male and female. Out of that arise children. It's important for society about how we bring up children, and guess what? They come up best if you bring them up with their own mother and father.
So in this one, you actually don't think that you're out of step with public opinion. I mean, albeit Stephen is saying that that's not your major priority.
We've done quite a lot of polling in this as well. I realise that the government have done that, and I looked at the questions that they asked in that social attitude study. I think you're going to see there's some evidence coming out that pretty much shows that we're in tune with public opinion, and that will be revealed in the next few weeks or so.
Okay, all right. Well, we've got lots of public opinion coming into us this morning, so let's speak to Des in Alexandra. Good morning, Des.
Good morning.
Good morning. Do you think that actually, as John Dean says, that the Catholic Church is in step with public opinion here?
Well, I strongly suspect them not in step at all with public opinion, and of course you can bandy about figures from surveys and so on to your heart's content, but the interesting point, listening to the conversation that John has several times been talking about evidence and the body of evidence that there is, and I've got to challenge him on that. The evidence that he's talking about, and I know this because I specifically asked the question and got the answer, the evidence is very poor. For example, the idea of life expectancy of gay people being reduced, they base that on one 1997 Canadian study and then extrapolate that to as if it makes some sort of general point. I do wish John Deegan would be honest about the fact that the evidence is actually sparse and very selective and very poor.
Well, no, I think you, as people like you who want a change, if you want a change, then it's you to come up with evidence. We've given you evidence. There's more evidence than that. I'm looking at
I'm sorry.
The Centre for Disease Control its headline is yet more evidence confirms there's about a 20 years shorter than that of the general.
That's a 1997 Canadian study. The figures
also,
on that were skewed.
John, I would have to say, obviously, you're looking at retrospective evidence. I mean, you have to be looking at historical events.
Yeah.
There's an argument, surely, and I'll bring Tom French in back on this, that if, as a society, you adopt a much more positive approach to, and in this case, we're talking about homosexuality, and you bring down the barriers and you strip away any thoughts of prejudice or bigotry or whatever, then you have a happy group of people who feel welcomed within a society, who tend to go on and lead productive lives. And you have people like Tom who become poster boys, apologies Tom, for sort of happy, healthy, productive people. Is that not where we should be going, John? Rather than going back into history to try and prove that there's something wrong with you?
Well, that sounds appealing. It does sound appealing. Des, if you want to get in touch with my office, I will send you 10 studies.
I've been sent 4 links already by your office, John, and I've not been impressed by any of them, and I have actually responded to them in print.
It's interesting,
I'll send that evidence to you. If you contact my office, I didn't give you these 10 studies I'm talking. I did. If it was you that contacted me, I gave you the initial evidence in life expectancy, but I said if you want more information, I've got 10 studies.
I'll be delighted, and I'll look closely at it as I did previously.
Des, do stay with us. I'm just going to bring Tom in before we go to the travel. Go on, Tom. What were you going to say?
It would be worth stepping back here and just thinking about what we're actually discussing, because John appears to now be lobbying about the goodness or badness of gay people. I mean, what we're talking about here is choice.
I never said
and
that,
like Tom,
never.
Well, you're talking about surveys about whether, gay people are this or gay people are that.
People's lives is what I'm talking about, Tom. I'm not saying that every individual is precious in my eyes, and that's why we're willing to be unpopular, because we stand up for the truth.
Yeah.
And honestly,
But the point is, just like Tom Harris said, the MP who said, if you don't like gay marriage, don't get married to a gay person. This is about choice.
For all of us, Tom.
Yeah,
Tom
but
Harris,
it is interesting, John, isn't it? And we're going to have to go to travel. In that, that the headline is that this is a debate about whether or not we should have gay marriage, but you don't get too far into it before you are talking about people's very fundamental attitudes towards homosexuality, whether it is right or wrong, good or bad, which surely is a debate about equality and how we perceive people. Hang on, we've got loads of calls on this, loads of texts. Andrew says, how can this minister talk about human rights when he wants to restrict the rights of a group of people? If the public support this, then he should go back to church and pray for some sense. I suspect we're talking about the Cardinal there. Graham says, hypocritical and out of touch. How can the Catholic leaders, priests, pontificate on same-sex relationships, never mind the so-called traditional marriages, when the church won't let Catholic clergy marry, never mind the well-documented same-sex relationships that Catholic brothers and priests have been involved with and covered up. Anonymous one, I support Cardinal O'Brien's view against gay marriage, but I don't expect to be called a bigot for that. Now, there's an interesting point. Are you a bigot if you don't support same-sex marriage? I'll leave that one with you. 0500 92 95 00. Let's get back to our discussion, though, on the comments of Cardinal Keith O'Brien that gay marriage is a subversion of a universal human right. And we kind of paused on a point, which was, are you a bigot if you don't agree with same-sex marriage? Let me know your thoughts on that. 0500 92 95 00. Let's speak to Joe and then Frank. Morning, Joe.
Hi, morning, Kaye.
Hi, Joe. How are you this morning?
Fine, thanks, fine.
Good. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I've got a bit of a cold, Kaye, in case the chap for Catholic Church thinks I'm gay. It's just a bit of a cold. Oh. It's just a point I'd like to put to him. Kaye, what about would the Catholic Church not be better getting their own house in order when you see the amount of children that have been abused by Catholic priests, and maybe come on to, maybe in their future life they've ended up gay? What's his answer to that? Could you tell me, please?
John?
Well, there's some countries where abuse has been a problem. The Catholic Church is doing everything it can to address it.
John, I know you've apologised, but surely that's not good enough apologising.
No, we have to be careful here, Joe, with specifics here, because obviously I'm not in a position to verify anything at all. What are you going to say to us?
But I'm saying, I know you've apologised, John, but surely that's not good enough. Surely, what about these young people that have come on to become homosexual themselves? Is there any answer for that?
Joe, I think you do touch on an important point. I mean, abuse of young children is something that can lead to them having feelings of same-sex attraction. I mean, there's terrible things that happen. In Scotland, thankfully, we haven't had that problem. You know, the Bishops' Conference have an excellent regime for child protection. We've done everything we can to promote that.
What are you saying? There's not been any abuse in Scotland, John?
Well, we haven't seen what's happened in other countries. We haven't seen. If you look around Scotland, if you look at what's happened,
I think you should get your act together, by the way.
Okay. Well, listen, Joe. I'm going to let you go if you don't mind, purely just because I'm slightly concerned that we're going to get ourselves into tricky water here. But the point still remains there, John. A lot of people are concerned about stories that have come out and are very well documented about sexual abuse of children within the Catholic Church. And I suppose if you're going to take a point of high morality, people might quite legitimately say to you, before you start pontificating about other people's behaviour, then you have to make sure that you're utterly squeaky clean yourself.
Okay. I mean, if we really want to look at abuse, we've got to look not just at what happens at Catholic institutions, but all institutions. What's happened when people have been taken into care by local authorities.
Yeah, but John, that's interesting, because you come back to good and bad examples of everything in life, and there are good and bad examples of everything in life. And clearly, when you go back to your evidence, against homosexuality, you are pulling out what you would see as a negative view of a homosexual life, and you're not particularly looking at what other people would say is a perfectly positive view of homosexual life. So I mean that kind of cuts two ways. Anyway, let's speak to Mary in Glasgow. Good morning, Mary.
Yeah, good morning, Kate.
Good morning to you, Mary. I believe you're behind Cardinal Keith O'Brien, yeah?
Yes, I am, 100%.
Yep. In terms of, you feel gay marriage is unacceptable?
Totally unacceptable, yes. And my reason for this standpoint is that, as the Cardinal says, if you redefine marriage, it will open the gate for other degenerations, like the Abortion Act. Now they're having abortions because they don't like the sex of the child. In this country, there was a sort of survey done, a secret survey done, and that's what they're doing. And it will be the same with this if they redefine marriage. There's a man in Australia who married his dog. Will they soon be campaigning that they can marry dogs? You know, this is what the slippery slope that we're on.
Well, I mean, Tom, let me bring you back in on that. I mean, the Cardinal has said if you are going to stretch the definition of marriage, then you do have to ask the question, how far do you stretch it? And it is a valid question.
I'm not sure it is if you actually look at, we're talking about evidence. If you look around the world, all of the countries where polygamy is legal, there's about 50 countries, and only in one of them is same-sex marriage legal also. That's South Africa, and that was actually legalised after polygamy. So if you're going to draw any connection between polygamy and marriage, it would be between polygamy and mixed-sex marriage. But I do have to pick John up on something he just said, which I thought was pretty shocking, which is to suggest that homosexuality comes from child abuse.
Yeah.
And I do want to invite him to apologise for that, because I do think that's pretty shocking.
I've come across that sort of evidence. People get confused about their sexuality, Tom. That's what I'm saying. And when they go through some traumatic experiences, that can contribute to the confusion.
So you're not going to withdraw that comment?
Not at all.
So your belief, John, is that somebody who is born straight, were they to fall prey to child sexual abuse, they could turn homosexual?
People are born male and female. Things happen in your development, the circumstances that you're in, all sorts of things throughout life, and some of those can lead to you having confusion about the development of your sexuality.
Okay, all right. Let's bring Alan in Livingston in. Alan, you're a gay man, a Catholic gay man?
Yes, well, I'm probably both rather than the one, but
right.
I'm a Catholic. I practice the Catholic faith insofar as I take part in the sacraments, I go to Mass, hopefully I participate in the Catholic Church with my contributions, but I'm also gay.
Right. And how do you stand on these comments?
I don't stand behind one particular group either, Keith O'Brien or the gay lobby groups. I could probably knock both of their heads together. I really do think that I'm probably more annoyed with the gay lobbying groups than I am with the Catholic Church. Mm-hmm. I've heard more prejudicial remarks from gay men and women towards Catholicism than I have had anti-homosexual remarks from Catholics. I think in the Catholic Church there's a big difference between the Vatican and the Vatican line and ordinary people, and at a local level, I have always been made to feel very welcome in the Catholic Church. And I think that the gay group are being insensitive to the Catholic Church. I think they're taking advantage of some of the faults in the Catholic Church, such as the ability to communicate with society at large and use words like grotesque, which probably is right, in the technical sense for Cardinal Keith O'Brien to use, but it's changed its meaning over the years.
Right.
And has a different meaning in society.
Yeah, no, I do understand what you mean there, Alan. Yeah.
I think it's important to say that.
Well, hang on. Let's just chat to Alan a bit, because this is, you bring a very interesting perspective here, Alan. I mean, where do you stand on gay marriage?
I do have mixed feelings about it because my backgrounds come from, the different sides of the debate, but I'm probably going down the side of it that it shouldn't be allowed at this time, and I do feel sorry for many people in the gay community who want to be married, but I think that's only because the gay lobbying group have been pushing it inappropriately. Mm-hmm. I think it's discrimination not just to treat people differently, but it's also discrimination to respect differences. And I think gay unions and gay people are different. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with having a different institution, namely civil partnership. And, I see no prejudice. If I was to enter into a civil partnership, all my legal rights would be respected. I would have the equivalent standing of a married straight man. And, I just think this whole debate is all about nothing because there was no prejudice before and it's just causing division in society. And I think that's very sad. I think it's bringing out intolerances and really that is why I'm more annoyed with the gay lobby group than I am with the Catholic Church.
OK. Alan, please stay with us if you don't mind. And Tom, hold on, because I'm going to bring in John from Denver. Morning, John. Hi, John.
Hello, John from Aberdeen.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
My funny old system, I'm always blaming it. Apologies for that, John. Interesting contribution from Alan there as a Catholic gay man who, on balance, would probably say it's not the time for gay marriage and is concerned that the homosexual lobby is perhaps demanding a right that they don't necessarily need. I hope I'm not, paraphrasing you wrongly there, Alan. What do you think, John?
Well, I was intrigued by his comment about not at this time. And I presume he's implying by that in fact he does support broadly the principle of a marriage. I think my feeling is that the Cardinal said it's a universal right, and I think it is a universal right, and it's not for me to judge whether two lesbian or homosexual couple, a lesbian or homosexual couple, if they feel that it's the appropriate for them and it's something they want to do, then I don't think we have the right to stop them. It's as the Cardinal says, a universal right. I think the Catholic Church's objections are in a sense illogical. It's got nothing to do with life expectancy.
We haven't seen it has. That's not the principle.
Are we now going to say that people with multiple sclerosis can't get married?
No, we're saying there's something between a male and a female that doesn't exist between two men and two women. It's something natural and obvious, biologically evident to anyone.
Just because they
so, John, are you talking specifically about the sexual act?
The sexual
John.
act leads to children being born.
Right, OK, so it's the sexual act, procreation, that leads to children being born. But in terms of the love that might exist between same-sex couples, do you see any difference between the love that might exist between same-sex couples and mixed couples?
I think you're getting to an important point that maybe the homosexual lobby groups have to ask themselves. Sex is not love. There are some relationships which sex is not the proper manifestation of that love.
No, absolutely. So I don't want to talk about sex. I'm talking about love. I'm talking about love between same-sex couples.
Yes, okay.
Do you see that as the same?
We don't marry each other. I see love as important. Love is something that's you're willing to care about the other person before yourself. Anyone is capable of that. Whatever their lifestyle is, people are capable of putting another person before themselves. That's what love is all about. Sex isn't necessarily part of love. In fact, sex has a particular manifestation in marriage where you fully give yourself to someone else, knowing that children can arise from that relationship, and you're willing to stick together and look after those children. That's fundamentally why we recognise that marriage is a particular thing. It's between a man and a woman, not between two men or two women. They can love each other as much as they want. In their private life, they can do what they want. But Tom and others, they want to change it for everyone. They want to justify their lifestyle by changing what every society has always recognised.
OK, John, did you want to come in again?
Yeah, I mean, I think perhaps we've got a key issue here. So we're saying if a couple cannot have children, they can't be married. So we're saying any woman past the menopause can't be married, any sterile man can't be married, any woman who of normal childbearing age who we know can't have children can't be married because when they have sex they can't have children. This is absurd.
Never said that. Well, I think you have to choose these straw men to say they're absurd, but we've never said that.
You've just said that one of the criteria for marriage is the ability to have children.
I've said that the complementarity between a male and a female leads to children being born. Are you trying to say that two men can have children together?
I'm just saying that having children has nothing to do with it.
Well, I mean, we know that they can't produce children together, but I mean, we do know now that medical science allows them through a third party to bring a child into their family and bring it up. We do know that, don't we, John?
Well, Kaye, how normal is that? Again, that's an intervention to sustain and try to justify that these lifestyles are the same as marriage.
Yeah, it's an interesting use of the word normal, because you could think normal in terms of commonplace, and you could think normal in terms of the opposite of abnormal, which is clearly giving it a different kind of spin. Let's speak. We've got Carol, and then we'll speak to Frank, but somewhere in the middle I'll speak to Fred, who just walked in. Morning, Carol.
Good morning, Kaye.
How are you this morning?
I'm fine, thanks.
Good. What are your feelings on this?
Well, so far I think I'm pretty disgusted with what I heard from chap from the Roman Catholic Church, actually. What's his name?
John Deegan, yeah.
Yeah, John, I think he seems to be sort of suggesting that we all go, all sort of gay people, I'm transgender, by the way, all go away and have sort of aversion therapy. Yeah, I had.
Well, again, you're trying to put words in my mouth. Whenever I've not said any of that, Carol. So I'm afraid you're making up.
Well, sorry,
you want to debate with.
Sorry, John. I mean, you're sort of saying we ought to sort of snap out of it. I mean, how do you suggest we do it? I mean, that's how they used to do it. That's what you would. You want to put us back again.
I'm saying that any human being is capable of using reason, and using reason we can judge our different appetites and different passions, and we can direct them in the proper direction to allow us to flourish as persons.
You have more or less said, John, would you not agree that sexuality is a choice? As opposed to a biological...
it's a choice as long as the Roman Catholic dictates what you have to, what you do.
Yeah, human behaviour is a choice. Yes, I do agree. I do agree with that.
So, fundamentally, you do not agree that people are born gay?
People find that they're attracted to people of the same sex. That is definitely the case. But people are born male and female.
Right.
Okay. And from that, at some stage they develop, and usually through natural development, they find that eventually after puberty, and particularly it fixes, that they're attracted to someone of the opposite sex. And that fits in with the complementarity we have in male and female. It has a particular reason, just as feelings of hunger have a particular need to fulfil to make sure that we're fed. The attraction between a male and a female is for the human society to continue.
Well, sorry, you go against biology, chemistry, human biology and chemistry. Then I'm afraid, John, because you obviously haven't got a clue about about development in the womb and things. About fetal development.
Carol, what's your basic kind of objection here?
Well, basically, I think it sounds to me that we can, what John's saying is we can be what we like as long as it's what the Catholic Church says we can be what we like.
It's what's best for human beings. That's all we're doing. We can't force you to do anything. You can do what you want.
Okay, John.
This is what works best.
What about other religious organisations? I'm a Quaker attender. Are you saying the Quakers are wrong? Because Quakers are very, very welcoming of gay people and quite happy with...
Can I just say this? This is a caricature. The Catholic Church is very welcome to anyone with same-sex attraction. Please come along to Catholic Church. Find out what we really believe instead of the caricature that's presented in the media.
Well, I mean, and it has to be said, we heard from Alan earlier on, who was a Catholic gay man, who did say that he felt very welcomed by his church and had never experienced at grassroots level any form of prejudice, and clearly was a very keen member of his congregation. Listen, I'm just going to get some text here because we've had so many texts, and then I'll quickly have a word with Ralph and Frank if I've got time. It should be up to each religious community to conduct marriage within their own beliefs. If people don't agree with this community, they should just look for another church. Janice says, I have no problem with gay marriages or relationships, but as a Christian, I object to gay marriages in church. Nature intended man and woman to make a union. Their anatomy determines this. If gay people want to get wed, go to the registrar, leave the politicians out of it. And Anne in Edinburgh says, oh dear Kaye, how sad that we still have people like Cathy in our country. This is not the Scotland I know and love and want to promote. Let's go back and take just another couple of calls on our subject this morning, sparked by Cardinal Keith O'Brien's comments about gay marriage, but we have been all around this discussion. Let's speak to Ralph in Maryhill. Good morning, Ralph.
Good morning, Kate.
Good morning. You're a Catholic, Ralph, I believe?
Yes, I'm a practising Catholic.
Right, okay. And your feelings about gay marriage?
Yeah, well, I've got 5 kids, and if I thought if any one of them was gay, that I would love them as much as anybody would. Mm-hmm. And I think I think the Catholic Church has got this wrong. I think they should, because homosexuality has been around for, well, I don't know, thousands of years, and most of the laws in Catholic religion go back as far as that. But this is a new millennium now, and people should get treated equal. And I do think that if they do love each other, they should have a proper wedding like everybody does. I don't see why they should be treated different.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, when Cardinal Keith O'Brien says what he does, that this is a grotesque subversion of a universally accepted human right, is he speaking for you as a Catholic?
Not really. I think most Catholics would have their own opinion on this. And I mean, there's a lot of gay people do practice the Catholic religion and do want to be priests. And I don't see why they should get stopped for doing that, because they're not doing any. They're trying to do good.
Right.
And I just really think that the Catholic Church should rethink this again, because religion does, especially in Glasgow, it can cause a lot of problems. with different things, you know. And I just think that they should just waken up and get with the times, and you know, I think that really.
Okay.
It's about time now that they did recognise all this.
Ralph, listen, thank you very much. And John, if you don't mind, I'm going to have a quick word with Frank from East Kilbride, who's been hanging on for ages, and we're going to probably wind up this discussion in a time. Morning, Frank.
Morning, Kaye.
Morning, and thanks for hanging on.
Yeah, the discussion was supposed to be, Kaye, about Cardinal Keith O'Brien's comments, whether the church was out of step, but seemed to have gone on to a bit of, bringing in bigotry, whether if you've got an opinion against the gay marriage, you're a bigot, and also about paedophile priests. I don't know how you managed to get it onto that.
Well, Frank, let me just say here, it's like any organic conversation. You start off at a point and, it goes off in all directions. And to be honest, we take the calls that people come in with and they're all coming at it from a different perspective. So we're not engineering anything here. We're just having a chat.
Not engineering it, Kaye, but I think you should be channeling the conversation to what it's about. The bottom line here is, Kaye, people of all religions and none who I come across in my daily life, the vast majority, now I don't know where they get these polls and all that, but I tell you, the people I come across, the vast majority, I'm talking about 90% plus, don't think there's any need for gay marriage, don't think it's necessary to forward it to promote the rights which are already there for the homosexual community. And what it seems to be now is it seems to get channeled that it's only the Catholic Church and the Catholic community who are. This which seems to be the overriding thing here. It's only the Catholic community that seems to be against this. Far from it, Kaye. And the point here is, as the Cardinal says, you cannot suddenly change something because less than 3% of the population want it. And at the end of the day,
where do you get less than 3% from, Frank?
Well, less than 3% of the going by figures, less than 3%.
Well, the last Scottish Social Attitude
study
said that 61%.
Less than 3% of homosexual or lesbian.
Want to have a gay marriage?
No. Less than 3% of the population are gay or lesbian.
Right, okay. Well, I mean, Frank, but we won't trade statistics. I mean, I was under the impression that we were talking 10%, but clearly you're getting your information from somewhere different. Frank, listen, nice to speak to you this morning. John Deegan, Scottish Parliamentary Officer for the Catholic Church. Thank you very much for joining us this morning and giving your views. And thanks for all your comments on that. It was a wide-ranging conversation, but I happen to think that that's quite a good thing, really, so I'm not bothered about that. It is just about 2 minutes to 10. And we're going to completely change tack now and talk about doggies.